So it's going down. Bud Crawford versus Canelo this weekend on Netflix. So like, there's no reason for us not to all be able to tune in, right? Um, it's a big fight, man. I keep up with boxing a little bit, especially the big names. I'll be honest, I'm not like no like crazy boxing fanatic, but I do keep up with the big fight, especially Canelo. Fantastic career. Bud also fantastic career. Bud's trying to do something that, to be fair, is flipping. It's a massive leap. He is a two-weight undisputed champion, and he's going for a third weight, which is the first time in history. So if Bud goes out there and manages to get this win, we kind of have to put him in the same category as the Usyks, basically one of the greatest of all time, right? If Canelo gets the job done, it's kind of like he's supposed to get the job done. Bud's coming up two weight classes. My only issue is with Canelo at the moment is going off his last performance, because everyone kind of, when he was versing Skull, right? Everyone was kind of saying that it was, the fight was dead, that it wasn't a good fight because Skull didn't want to fight. But you can't trade, like, what do they expect? You can't stand toe to toe with Canelo. And Canelo's job, in a sense, is to kind of, what he does? He kind of he uses the ring. He hasn't got fantastic speedy feet. He's got strategic feet. He kind of uses the ring, slowly cuts you off, gets you against the ropes in the corner, unloads big shots. And you know, there's only so much of that kind of punishment you can take, especially when it's getting out by Canelo. So my thing is, if he couldn't do that to Skull, I don't see how he's going to do it to Crawford. Now, don't get me wrong, Crawford's coming up two weight classes. He's the smaller man, but I just watched the face off, and from what I'm seeing, there's not much in it. Actually, Crawford is the bigger man on paper. He's taller, got longer range. So when you take all that into account, it's going to come down to the weight. We're talking about weight, and I think Crawford probably naturally walks around, if not somewhere around the weight that Canelo will probably walk around that. Do you know what I'm saying? I know Crawford cuts weight. Canelo's always been quite small for the categories that he's fought in, so it's not like he's going to be stupidly bigger than Crawford on the night. I think, to be fair, just naturally they're probably around the same size. It's just thickness, muscle mass, and stuff like that. So Crawford's had to probably add a little bit of muscle mass and not cut weight. So that to me is even. I think the main part of the fight is when it comes down to wear and tear. Canelo's definitely got more wear and tear. The guy's had almost double the amount of fights. Well, not double, but he's had like 60 something fights. Crawford's had 41, but Canelo's had almost double the amount of rounds. And you got to think, guys, whenever someone's doing a camp, boxing, MMA, that's the most taxing on the body over time, is the camps, the continuous camps, because that's when you're restricting your food, you're wearing out the tire in a sense, yeah. So although Bud is the older guy at 37 and Canelo is 35, I think Crawford is probably more youthful in terms of his body. He hasn't put as much tread on the tires. So as long as Crawford is able to still move and navigate the way that he does in his previous fights, apart from his last one, but even then that guy was, it was an awkward fight, and Crawford did all right, man. It's just sometimes it's not a good night. But I feel like Canelo has actually slowed down, whereas Crawford hasn't. Do you know what I'm saying? I feel like Canelo, like when I was watching that fight, it sounds bad, but some of the angles and stuff, I think, Canelo looks a bit old, man. And Crawford's never drunk. He's always been in good shape. He lives the life. And I'm not saying Canelo doesn't, because clearly he does. You can't have the amount of fights and rounds that he had without living the life. But there was times when he probably partied and whatnot. And like I said, there's more tread on the tire. So I think it's going to be one of those ones where if Canelo can still close the ring off like he does and let off the big shots, he can get him out of there from like the fifth to the sixth, maybe. Yeah, I reckon he'll get him out of there between the fifth and the eighth. If he hasn't got him out of there by the eighth, it's Crawford's fight. It's Crawford's fight. I feel like Crawford, he's going to be able to take the early rounds. They both start slow, but I feel like Crawford's going to be able to take the early rounds. And then I think Canelo's going to turn it up like he normally does. And if he can't get Crawford out of there within them rounds, then it's going to be, it's definitely going to be Crawford's fight. Crawford's so slick. His boxing IQ, they've both got great boxing IQ. But I believe Crawford's got that little notch above. And like I've said previously in videos, man, that 1% is what makes the big difference in these top level athletes, is the 1%. And if Crawford's got that little bit edge on him, it will show. It will show on the night. It will show in the fight. And if Crawford can adjust to what he's facing, because obviously Canelo's going to be probably one of the biggest punchers he's faced. I'm not saying he's the hardest puncher like knockout power, but the biggest puncher, continuously just bombs, boom, boom, boom. That's when Canelo's throwing. That's what it must feel like, you know. And the problem I've got with Crawford is that he does get hit. And even if you go back to the Earl Spence fight, even though he whooped his ass, there was times when Earl Spence was still landing good shots. And if he does get caught by Canelo, it's not like getting caught by Earl Spence. You know what I mean? Like, we don't know exactly how well he can take the punch. We've seen he can take a punch, but so can Canelo. But at these weights, I don't know how well Crawford can take them shots. But we'll find out on the night. There's a lot of unanswered questions, and at the ages they're at, I don't feel like we're getting them in their prime. So, and I was watching the interview with what's his name, man? How I forgot the promoter's name. But I was watching an interview with one of the promoters, and he said that they're both at that age where they can wake up and they just ain't got it anymore. And it's like, yeah, that's true. Like 35 and 37 in boxing is very different than in MMA as well, man. So like, when you look at boxers, sometimes they just kind of lose what they had. Do you know what I'm saying? Even with MMA, I can think back to Tyron Woodley. Tyron Woodley was doing all sorts, and then all of a sudden he's getting knocked out by Jake Paul. So like, there's a certain stage where these athletes, they kind of just, it just drops. The skill, the timing, something happens. And we're gonna find out on that night if both of these guys have still got it. And if one of them is slacking in any way, if one of them is timing's off and no longer possesses that grit, that fire that they used to have, it's going to be an easy night. It's going to be an easy night. I just couldn't pick which one it's going to be. I genuinely feel like when the bell rings, I reckon within 3 rounds, we'll find out who's going to win that fight. And I think whoever it is going to be victorious, it's actually going to be an easy night. Now, I mean, when I say easy, I'm not saying like a walk in the park, but I'm saying it's going to be a dominant performance. It's not going to be a war. It won't be. It's going to be somebody getting their ass kicked. Simple as that. So between these two fighters, I wouldn't know even which way to go. But I'm going to say that Crawford is going to pull off the victory. He can even hurt Canelo. But I just feel like it's going to go to a decision. And it's going to be unanimous, not split. So I feel like Crawford's going to win by unanimous decision. In the later rounds, he's going to start picking up the pace, landing better shots. And Canelo, I feel like Canelo's probably just slowed down a little bit too much because styles make fights. And Canelo's style, it kind of relies on being able to cut off that ring. And if Crawford's, if he's able to stay agile, move, slick, counter punching like he does, then I just don't see how Canelo can get ahead on the scorecards. So he can only really get the knockout, and it's gonna be that's an if. Who was the last person Canelo knocked out clean? I know he's dropped a couple of fighters. I think it might have been Amir Khan, the last person he knocked out clean. And Amir Khan's chin isn't the best, so he hasn't got like one punch knockout power. He's got accumulative damage and eventually take you out power. Even when he fought Billy Joe Saunders, you can see in that fight, Billy was I think he was ahead on the scorecards. He was definitely boxing well. And then obviously Canelo started landing them shots and eventually broke his eye socket. So what I'm trying to say is that if he can't do that to Bud, if he can't impose that on Bud, it's Bud's night. It's definitely Bud's night. In the later rounds, it'll take the first few rounds, I believe. Then Canelo will kind of start pressuring, and Crawford's going to have to start reacting and making sure that he stays on his game. And then later on, when Canelo's slowing down, Crawford will be landing the better shots, the cleaner shots, the better boxing. And that's where he'll take the fight. I don't think we'll see a knockout. And if we do, I'm calling it now, yeah? If we see a knockout, it's Crawford. It's Crawford. That's the only way I can see a knockout coming, because I just don't think Canelo's going to be able to land the shot that puts him to sleep. But I could be wrong. We'll see. It's obviously on Netflix, so everyone can tune in. I might do like a live reaction. I'm not too sure. I've been trying to figure out the setup. But obviously the channel's slowly growing. I'm going to be dropping more content. So make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. It's been your boy Just K. This is my opinion. I'm out.